Welcome to the Stronger Marriage Podcast with Trey and Lee.
Hi guys, glad you joined us this afternoon.
We are honored that you join in and listen, and we're excited about this week's podcast. We're going to be talking about what 36 years of marriage has taught us about sex.
We're about to celebrate 36 years of marriage.
We are.
Yes, next Monday.
Yeah, the 12th.
August the 12th is our 36th anniversary. So, yeah.
We're always excited about celebrating anniversaries, and we married pretty young, and so our years have kind of stacked up pretty quick. I'd like to think we're still pretty young, but
we think we are, but
maybe not as young as our kids think we are.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we talk oftentimes on our podcast about married sex and kind of what how God has designed it, and kind of what the plan is for it, and kind of from a biblical perspective and a Christian perspective. And one of the reasons we do is because we want to put out good material on kind of what to expect on just healthy married sex. And somebody needs to do that. And we kind of feel like we have a good platform in which we can talk about those things.
Yeah, because I'm not sure that our first, 3 to 5 years of marriage were the healthiest as far as our sexuality. We weren't well educated.
It's true. We were
in any aspect.
Young. We were so young.
In any aspect of what a healthy sex life looked like in marriage.
We were very young. We did not have. I don't know that premarital counseling was a big thing back in the old days. Thankfully, we had a friend that handed us some tapes. Cassette tapes, and so we're going to date ourselves a little bit. Handed us some cassette tapes of Dr. Ed Wheat, Intended for Pleasure, and we listened to some of those, but we really didn't have anybody to ask questions about, and we were a little uncomfortable asking questions and to each other. And so, the first few years, we just didn't understand why God created it the way He did. There were a lot of things we did. Yeah. We knew when we had sex, it was fun and it felt good, but we really didn't realize how important it was to our relationship.
That's right. We also had 2 babies in the first 3 to 4 years of our marriage. That happened really quick.
We said we were going to wait for 5 years to have kids, and we
did. I had some issues with some birth control, and things just didn't quite
5
work
months
the
later.
way we thought we were going to. And we're going to talk about that, how intimacy looks different during different seasons of marriage, but having small children can wreak a lot of havoc, and pregnancy and all of those things on your sex life. So we'll get there.
We will. So we've learned. We think we can look back on 36 years of marriage and tell you some things that we have learned about sex from our vantage point. And so take off. Let's start with number 1.
So the first one is that intimacy isn't limited to sex. And we've talked about that before. There's a lot of different forms of intimacy, but sex needs to be regularly included in your intimacy.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is when it comes to intimacy over 36 years of marriage, we've learned that it's sex and there's other ways to be intimate as well, and both are important.
Very much so.
Okay.
Yes.
I was making sure I was understanding what you were saying.
Yes.
Yes. And that's probably something we didn't understand either, that there was intimacy in conversation. There was intimacy in spending time together. There was intimacy in prayer together. There was intimacy in all of those things, and intimacy in sex.
Yes.
That intimacy can be seen in a lot of areas.
Yes.
And can I add this part? And all of those areas are very important. You can't just go, well, this is my favorite part of conversation, is my favorite part of intimacy, and it's the only one I'm interested in. You can't say sexual intimacy is really the only one that I'm interested in. All of those, if your spouse is, whatever the intimacy looks like in your marriage, if that's something your spouse is looking for, whatever kind of intimacy it is, then that's something that you need to take serious.
Yes.
I was hoping I said that right.
Absolutely.
And so yes, intimacy isn't limited to sex, but it does need to include regular sex. Why do we say regular sex?
I mean, frequency is important, and that there again, that's going to depend on the season of life that you're in. But especially as a young married couple, it should have been a little more important to us than I think I realized. And so there again, there was that lack of communication. But it's a connecting and a reconnecting, and so. If you're not having it on a regular basis, you're getting that disconnect. And it's like, we would have periods of time where we just kind of lived together and put up with each other, but we didn't like each other very well. And then, maybe we were sexually intimate and it was like, oh, I kind of like you again.
There you go.
You reconnect, and that's how God designed. He knew exactly the power that sexual intimacy has, and so that's part of his grand scheme of things.
Yeah, that's that oxytocin release in your body that happens during sexual intimacy. When we talk about regular sex, and I know we're going to talk about this in a minute, but I want to say real quick, regular sex is whatever you two choose.
Right.
Does that make sense? For some couples, honestly, some couples may go, hey, we're happy with once a month. And that's great if both of you are happy with that.
There has to be agreement. There has to be compromise, because
meet in the middle.
Meet in the middle, because chances are one is going to have a higher sex drive than the other. I think that's like almost every single marriage. One person's going to have a higher sex drive than the other. So you got to meet in the middle. The person with the lower sex drive shouldn't say, this is how it's going to be. The person with the higher sex drive shouldn't say, this is how it's going to be. There's got to be some compromise there.
So whether it's one time a month that you're happy with or 3 times a week that you're both happy with, whatever it is, whatever y'all are happy with, that's what we mean by regular sex.
Right.
So talk about it, discuss those things with one another, and make that choice of how that looks. And so first thing we want to throw out there is intimacy isn't limited to sex, but it needs to include sex.
On a regular basis. Yes.
And that's
whatever that
even,
looks like for you.
Thankfully, that's even at 36 years of marriage.
Right.
There you go. Somebody listening to this may be at a later stage in life. And so sexual intimacy may not be as big a need in their marriage for both of them as it was. And maybe the other intimacies have taken over. So here's the key. If you're listening to this for a second and you're going, I like the sexual intimacy, I'm not a big fan of recreational intimacy or spiritual intimacy or conversational intimacy. The problem is if you're only sexually intimate and you don't work on the other ones as well, when you get older in marriage and further along, you're going to lose all intimacy because you will have not nurtured those other areas of intimacy.
Exactly.
You start to rely on the other areas of intimacy when the sexual intimacy isn't what it used to be.
Yep. And that kind of leads us into number 2, right? Intimacy looks different in different seasons of marriage. And I mentioned that earlier, there's just all kinds of things that can affect your sexual intimacy. Pregnancy, wowza, that's a tough one on sexual intimacy. Having a new baby, having small children. I mean, you just go down the list. When you have teens that are busy, busyness is a huge enemy of sexual intimacy. When you get older and it's not as important to you,
maybe there's some health issues or something along those lines.
Exactly. We talk about it in our workshops. A lot of men, can I pick on the men, are embarrassed to go see a doctor if they're, having some problems. Maybe just the desire isn't what it used to be. Testosterone can help. There's a lot of things that can help. And, your wife may still be super interested and you're not. And so don't be afraid to go to the doctor and get a little bit of advice and see if there's something that can be done to help you. And women as well, because it can work both ways. When you go through menopause, that's a very real concern. And so there are things that can help.
Yeah. There are doctors out there, but it's going to require that you put in a little effort.
Right.
And if your spouse is interested and still interested, you should be still interested as well. Third thing we've kind of learned, and we talked about this, we touched on this, learning to be intimate. Learn to be intimate in ways that don't include sex. And so let's go back through some of the things that I've mentioned and explain those a little bit better. So we talked about, yes, we're going to be sexually intimate, but we're also intimate, let's say conversation. And so we are intimate through conversation, which means that's how we connect verbally, intellectually, and we talk about anything from how your work week's been to what does our future plans look like.
Right. Yes. Also, financial intimacy is, you need to be on the same page with your finances. You need to be on the same page with, planning for retirement and just all of those things. So that is another form of intimacy.
Yeah. Recreational intimacy, and that is where you spend time doing things together.
That's very important because
this is a huge one because couples who don't spend time together will say they fall out of love, that what they fall out of is kind of friendship. They're not building intimacy anymore. And so you fall in love with your best friend before you get married because you're spending so much time with them. And then whether it's kids that come along or jobs that come along after marriage, all of a sudden you're going, I just don't feel close to my spouse anymore. It's because you're not doing anything together anymore. Go for a walk, go on date nights. Date nights are important. All of these things need to be a part because intimacy is going to not just look different, but it's going to, it needs to involve things other than sex. Sex is very important in your relationship, but look for ways to be intimate. Let's talk spiritual intimacy just for a moment. We talk about this all the time, but let's throw it back out there. Okay. Reading your Bible together, going to church together, talking about God together, doing a devotional book together,
praying
together. All of those are all ways to be spiritually intimate and very, very healthy that you do those things.
Yes. I'm not sure we said emotional intimacy.
No.
So, there's just another one where you're sharing feelings, you're sharing,
Guys don't like that.
They don't like that. But
that just means being vulnerable. Talking about things you don't always like to talk about.
You got to open up and, build that intimacy, build that trust, be a safe place to land when your spouse needs it, because at some time or another you will both need that. So emotional intimacy is vital as well.
It is. Let's look at the next one. You mentioned it very briefly, but let's talk about it in a little more detail on number 4.
Okay. Sex isn't just about pleasure. It's more about connecting and reconnecting with your spouse.
Yeah. This is really important. I'm going to try to explain this. We're not going to pigeonhole all men and all women, but generally speaking, men feel connected with their wives emotionally when they're sexually intimate together. Women, on the other hand, need to feel connected with their husband in other ways in order to feel in the mood to be sexually intimate with their husbands. So they kind of look at that connection a little bit different. Right. But the point we're trying to make here is that while sex is fun and sex can feel good and sex can be enjoyable, Lee brought it up a while ago, it's about connecting and reconnecting. It's the way God designed sex in marriage is for you to connect with. All of a sudden, it's, as you said, hey, I like you again. Hey, there's my spouse. It's that oxytocin that takes place when you're sexually intimate with your spouse that releases and reminds you, I love them. It's a bonding thing that takes place that connects you and reconnects you. This is something we didn't understand early in marriage. We knew sex was fun. We knew sex was good when we found time for it. But at the same time, it was kind of one of those deals we didn't realize the importance that one of the reasons God designed it was to connect you and reconnect you with your spouse over and over and over.
Right. Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump on that and do it all by myself.
You did great. So, number 5, just like everything else in your marriage, you must be intentional at sex for it to remain an important part of your marriage.
Yeah. So basically what we're saying is if you get lazy sexually, if you get lazy in being intimate sexually, it's going to go downhill. It's not going to. You're not going to have the sexual intimacy in your marriage you want. If you get lazy dating, if you get lazy putting in the work to maintain your marriage, it's not going to work. If you get lazy in your body of taking care of your body and not exercising and eating right, it's not going to work right the way you want it to work. With anything you do, you've got to be intentional.
Yeah.
And if you want sexual intimacy, if you want any of those intimacies to be a part of your marriage, you're going to have to be intentional at it.
Right. So that looks like a lot of different things. That could look like, flirting and, keeping that little spark alive.
Hugs in the kitchen.
Yes.
Being a little handsy every now and then. That's okay.
Yeah. It could also look like guys maybe running the vacuum cleaner or doing the dishes after supper.
Yeah.
That those kinds of things, helping with the kids, making sure your wife isn't so
Exhausted.
tired when she gets into bed, that she's got a little energy left. So, that can look like a lot of things. Also, being intentional with it can mean scheduling.
You're right.
Have your day that hey, that's our day.
Sunday nights, or whatever it is.
Right.
Pick a night and go, whether we have sex 3 times that week or no times that week, Sunday night's our night.
Exactly. Whatever that might look like for you. But be intentional.
If you've got kids in your home and you're busy and you've got little ones in your home, you're going to have to be intentional and communicate about, let's see if we can get them to bed early tonight. You're going to have to be intentional about maybe looking at the schedule and going, hey, we don't have anything on our schedule for Thursday. Maybe that night we can try to get the kids to bed early and we can have some time together. And you've just kind of scheduled it. Hey, Thursday night, we're going to try to find some time to be intimate together. You've got to be intentional.
You've got to be intentional at communicating your desire for it to your spouse. They can't read your mind. So, if you're in the mood, you need to tell them.
If you're and this is the higher drive spouse, let me speak to you for a second. If you're just kind of sitting there thinking, well, I'm in the mood, I'm just waiting for them to say, you still need to communicate to them.
You're thinking, well, they just know I'm always in the mood, and they, no, they really don't. So both ways, it works both ways.
You just kind of every now and then need to go, hey, tonight's a good night,
Right.
And so those are healthy ways to communicate things there with your spouse.
Yes. So number 6.
Yep.
We have 8.
Okay.
Sexual intimacy done right should get better and better with each year of marriage.
It's true.
Right?
Actually, that should be with everything.
Everything.
Every
Practice
part of
makes
your
perfect,
marriage
right?
ought to be getting better. So you should be able to communicate better.
Yes.
You should be able to know your spouse better.
Yes.
As you grow together, everything should be getting better.
You should have more in common.
That's right.
All of the things should get better.
And so sexual intimacy in your marriage should be getting better every year. And we're always amazed when you're, as the last point was, when you're being intentional with it. We're always amazed at sometimes newly married couples we talk to some of them sometimes and they go, hey, this ain't quite what we thought it was going to be. It was fun, but it just wasn't all that great. And we're always like, hold on, it's going to get a whole lot better. When you learn each other's bodies, you learn what each other likes, you learn your own body, you learn all these different things. And we have found, honestly, in 36 years of marriage, that it just kind of gets better every year. Now, that's going to take being intentional.
Yes.
It's going to take communication.
Lots of communication.
And so those are all things that are going to be healthy.
And educating yourself.
Yes.
Continue to educate yourself. So
there are some great books on Christian sexuality and marriage.
There's some great podcasts that, just deal specifically with this topic. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Jay Parker's got one on healthy married sex from a Christian woman's perspective.
Hot, holy, humorous.
Yeah, fantastic. Message us if you can't find her. Had someone that tagged us recently on social media. They had heard where we had recommended the book Sheet Music by Dr. Kevin Lehman. And they said, my husband and I, it was a woman, she said, my husband and I have loved this book. And then 2 or 3 other people said, hey, we've read that book. That has been a very, very good book.
It's good.
And so it helps promote communication is what it does.
And please know, when we recommend things, that doesn't mean we're going to agree 100% with every single thing that they say that's in their book. But for the most part, it's a good, healthy resource for you to
All
learn from.
marriage books are going to be like eating fish.
Yes.
Pick that meat out of there that you like, and when you run across something that you go, this isn't my marriage. Spit out that bone and move on. Don't throw the whole book away just because you disagree about something.
Right. There's some good things in there. So, all right. Number 7.
Yes.
Sex after marriage is exactly what you make it.
Yeah, it goes kind of back to being intentional. It is going to be exactly what you make it. And if you want a good, healthy sex life, make one. It can happen. Maybe you need to see a counselor. Maybe you need to see a marriage coach. Maybe you need to see a doctor. Maybe you just need to get a book and educate yourself so that you and your spouse can go, hey, we kind of need to pick it up a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
Give us the last one.
All right. Number 8, for sex to be good in marriage, you must also pursue your spouse in other areas of your marriage.
Yes. So what that means is, if I was the higher drive spouse and if I only pursued Lee sexually and not in any other way, she would think only thing he wants me for is sex. And so I need to go outside the box of going, I'm also going to pursue her, her mentally by communicating with her and getting to know her better and learn things about her. On dates, I'm going to pursue her by writing notes, sending flowers on occasion. I'm gonna pursue her by doing all those little, holding her hand. And those are things that most wives want to be pursued other than just sexually. And actually, men are this way too, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Even higher drive men they want their hand held. They want you to flirt with them in the kitchen. They love a sweet or sexy text message. Those are all very healthy things to just go, hey, I'm interested in you. I love you. I think about you, whatever it is.
Yes.
Those are all healthy things.
Absolutely.
So those were just 8 simple things that we've kind of learned in 35 years of marriage about sex.
36.
36.
Almost 36.
Well done. I'm
like
gonna have
5
to learn
days.
that.
We're
so
5 days from a complete 36.
days away.
Yeah.
I would have never thought. Yeah. I remember, man, I'm just sitting here thinking about year 10. We had a little trip together. Honestly, year 10, we were still trying to learn each other. I mean, when you have kids early in marriage, you're still trying to learn each other. And we've had, just like every other marriage, we've had our ups and downs and peaks and valleys and some rocky times and some frustrating times and some really, really good times. But you hang in there and the good times keep coming.
Yes. It's worth it.
It is worth it.
Every bit of the bad is worth all the good.
Yep, very good. We're done. Can I tell you about a couple of workshops that we have coming up that you need to know about? We are headed to the Northwest. And so if you're up in the Tacoma, Washington area, we're going to be there on the 31st of August. I just said 31st.
31st.
The 31st of August is when we're going to be there. That's a Saturday. Registration's still open. You can get there. Also, Missouri. We're going to be in Missouri there on the 13th and 14th of September. Come hang out with us. And so we're excited about that.
That's right.
So we've got a couple of really good workshops coming up.
If those locations are still 3 to 4 hours away from you, don't say that, oh, that's just not close. It is close.
Yeah.
Get there.
Yeah, we have couples that drive 6, 8, 10, 12 hours away to be there.
I don't know when we're going to be back in Washington.
That's right.
So do your best to get there.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll throw this out. It's not on the schedule, but we'll just drop this little hint. We foresee a Lubbock, Texas Stronger Marriage Workshop date coming up sometime pretty soon.
In the fall.
Yep.
Yeah. Late fall, probably.
We'll let you know when we know more.
Yes.
So we're excited about that. All right. Thank you all for listening.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Have a great week.
Bye.